Right. We're talking football. Question a BLM riot? The NFL says, don't even try it. Jack Del Rio gets slandered for calling out a glaring double standard. I speak of the Washington Commanders, football cat. He's a defensive coordinator who's been fined $100,000 for comparing coverage between the January 6th Capitol riots to the 2020 riots following the death of George Floyd. Last week, Del Rio referenced the Jan 6 hearings, writing, quote, "Would love to understand the whole story about why the summer of riots, looting, burning, and the destruction of personal property is never discussed. But this is." Del Rio elaborated.
I see the images on TV. People's livelihoods are being destroyed. Businesses are being burned down. No problem. And then we have a dust-up at the Capitol. Well, there's nothing burned down. And we're not going to talk about, we're going to make that a major deal. I just think it's kind of two standards. And if we apply the same standard and we're going to be reasonable with each other, let's have a discussion.
There you go. If that were any more accurate, the media would deem it heresy. Since the woke NFL fears discussions more than concussions, on came the massive fine from head coach Ron Rivera, Berkeley. Yes. There you go. Who released a statement of his own about Del Rio, reading in part, quote, "He does have the right to voice his opinion, and it most certainly is his constitutional right to do so." Well, thank you. However, words have consequences, and his words hurt a lot of people in our community. There you go. That's the second punch. So did his words hurt people? Who did he actually offend? Or what policy did he violate? The riots in 2020 did cause billions of dollars in damage across the country and ruined livelihoods. That's a fact. And claimed dozens of lives. And nearly all that destruction took place in communities the NFL claims they were trying to protect from Del Rio's hurtful words. Meanwhile, ESPN's Stephen A. Smith says Del Rio can't understand the riots of 2020 because he's white.
He's white. He's not black. And there's an awful lot of white people that cannot in any way identify with the plight that African Americans feel.
Got all that? I didn't. See, I'm white, so I don't understand anything that was just said. I guess dialogue is dead, Michelle. I can't talk to black people. Black people can't talk to white people. Let's just call it a day. By the way, I'm going to coin a phrase. This is your wheelhouse. Oh. Care to talk about Del Rio first?
Del Rio, full disclosure, I've known him since he was a player for the Minnesota Vikings. I covered him then. That's just how damn old I am. I don't think he should have been fined because of what he said in the statement, Ron Rivera. He is protected by the Constitution to say what he wants to say. He said it in a tweet. And by the way, when you listen to Jack Del Rio talk about it, he says, why can't we have a conversation? The other flaw with Ron Rivera's statement was that he was comparing it to peaceful protest, January 6th, to peaceful protests. Yes. No, he wasn't. He came out and said, burning, looting, killings, all of that, those were not the peaceful protests. So, no, he was not drawing an equivalency there. The last thing I would say is, whatever happened to sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt? If words hurt you, if you are offended, you are partly in that relationship. You've chosen to be hurt or offended by words. And so, look, I just don't think a fine is the way to go, because what you're saying is you spoke and now I can take your money.
You know, it's funny. My parents used to use that same advice, and it got me really into sticks and stones.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just,
like Sticks and the Rolling Stones?
Yes,
is
it was
that
like,
what it
you know
was?
what? None of my words are having any effect.
Yes.
I'll get the sticks and stones coming right up. You know, Matt, what if he had said the reverse and said that January 6th is without question the worst day ever and should never be compared to the social justice movement that is BLM?
He would be testifying before the J6 committee. I think
yes.
It was Cheney would ask him in. But, you know, you don't have to pay for your constitutional rights. You know, we have to pay a little taxes, but this is not like a slot machine. So if he has the First Amendment rights, he's got the right to say it. Now, he works for a team. The only thing I would say is I think they've done a pretty good job of destroying what was a relaxation and a wonderful outlet for the American people, professional sports. What is wrong with just being great on the field and focusing on football And why does everybody have to opine? You know, they used to say this about all these entertainers that would get involved in politics. It was like, just act, just sing, just do your thing. Yes, you can have your views, but we actually don't think you're that qualified to opine on these things. I think they do the country a lot of good if they just focus on being good at the game and talking about the game.
So what you're saying to the football players is just dribble.
I think someone I know said that, yeah.
That's what you're trying to... Yeah, you know, Kat, I don't like football. I don't understand it.
I don't want to focus on the game. You really have to focus. There are so many rules.
Plus, they're pushing themselves around. It's not nice. And, you know, I mean, it gets very violent. I mean, and it's like, this guy's talking about words while guys are getting brain damage.
Yeah.
Think about that, Kat. Think about it.
I'm thinking about it.
Keep thinking about it.
Yeah, I don't like football just because it makes me feel dumb. It's like everybody gets it, and I don't understand I just don't understand what's going on. So the more they can ruin themselves, the better it works for me. Fall is a tough time of year for me.
It's a tough time. It is ridiculous. They keep
the bar will never put forensic files on.
You don't need. How many players are there on a football team? 11?
I have no idea.
36?
I have no idea.
There are 11 on the field, offense and defense. It's 22 on the field at one time.
I also think his argument, I don't necessarily agree with the argument just because I think that anything that happens at the Capitol, just in general, you shouldn't compare it with something that happens at a Cheesecake Factory.
Right.
Just because those are different, and those are always going to be different.
God.
But again, in the statement, they completely twisted what he said.
That's the problem.
And it's so offensive to compare the people who were peacefully protesting and who did care with the people who just wanted to light on fire and steal.
The other thing is, remember, Donald Trump, during the height of that protest around the White House, and I actually infiltrated that riot, and he was put into the bunker at the White House because they almost breached the gates at the White House, something we have never seen before. That is a really serious problem.
That was like you're talking about the White House.
The Black Lives Matter violence around the White House, where they had to clear the park the next day.
Yes.
They almost breached the grounds of the White House. Dozens of Secret Service personnel were harmed during that thing as they had rocks and bottles thrown at them. So, you know, excuse me if I look at all of that and say I think that's pretty serious, too.
In the green room, Jim, you said, I wish January 6th was every day. I thought that was disgusting.
I meant 4th of July. I mixed up my seasons. But yeah, first of all, I love all of a sudden the sensitivity from the stupid commanders.
Yeah.
They had to be forced to stop calling themselves the Redskins.
That's right.
And now all of a sudden they're about polite dialogue. And I disagree. I like when sports figures talk about that. I'd love to hear Vince Lombardi talking about trans athletes. Who would love to hear that?
Yes.
And he did nothing wrong. Whether his opinion is right or wrong is not relevant. He just expressed an opinion. And Stephen A. Smith, in fairness to him, he did go on to say at the end of that clip that he should not be punished.
Oh, that's good.
He said that this guy should not be punished because he said it's a conversation and you have to ask people to be honest. But then he said we can educate. I'm sick of educating. I like being smart while other people are dumb. I don't want to educate anybody.
Yes.
But he did actually go on to say that.
He did.
Damn you, and for calling out the fact that I selectively edited that. You jerk.
That was too long. You had to.
No, you had to do it. He just went on and on and on. I said, I got to cut this down so it makes me look good. And it did, because it worked out as a funny joke that everybody laughed at. And
bottom line, the Commanders could have put out that same statement and not fined him at all.
True. Yeah.
And it would have made the same impact. I think the fine was weird.
Yeah, you don't need $100,000. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.